This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Sony Tablet S, Sony's first Android tablet. And as you can see, it has a very unique design. Right here we've got this kind of folded over magazine design. That's what Sony wanted, since they also make e-readers and they figure you might use it for that. Something that's really ergonomic and easy to hold. As we take a look that way, you can see it's a really cool design. I like it a lot. And you can see the back here is gloss plastic, and it loves fingerprints, but it has stippling on it. It's got a texture, so it makes it easier to hold. It doesn't just slip right out of your hands. And then that black area ends, and then you've just got the silver plastic here. So certainly it's a gorgeous industrial design, and it's unique. It doesn't look like the iPad or every other tablet on the block. And it's also very comfortable to hold. It weighs 1.3 pounds, which puts it at the light end of tablets. It's about the same as the iPad 2. Slightly heavier than the Samsung Galaxy Tab 10.1, but beyond that, it just feels easy to hold because of the design. Now you can either hold it, I'm left-handed, so I would probably hold it the other way around, but if you're right-handed, you would probably hold it in your left hand so you can use your right hand to point at it. And if you're using it in portrait mode, you use it with the skinny edge down. Now these edges are very curved, so they don't really dig into your hand like some other skinny tablets do. You cannot use it upside down. It's a three-way accelerometer. Sony thinks that you should not be using it with the big fat binding down. We've got the front-facing video chat camera here. And on this side, we have the power button. They hide it under the lip. You know, Sony's all about style and hiding all the controls and ports. So here you got the power button, and these are your volume controls. And there's a little reset hole, and that's one of the two stereo speakers down here. And these are actually pretty handy at your fingertips when you're holding. If you just reach underneath, you can feel them with some tactile feel to operate them. And on this side here, we have the other stereo speaker, lanyard mount, 3.5mm stereo jack, and underneath this cover, because Sony hates it when ports show, we know that from their high-end laptops, you pull off this fiddly little cover right here, and you have a full-size SD card slot and a micro USB connector. Strangely enough, Sony is the only tablet manufacturer that does not include a micro USB to USB cable in the box. Now, you probably have one from your phone or other small consumer electronics device, but there's not one in the box. Pretty darn weird. One thing you'll notice, there is no HDMI out on this. That's kind of a bummer. Sony thinks everybody should be using DLNA for wireless streaming of music, but their own DLNA app, not mucho compatible with all sorts of products out there just yet. Over here we have the proprietary charging port. Now we won't pick on them too much for having a proprietary charging port because most tablets do. They require big chargers. They can't work with 5-volt phone micro USB chargers. But Sony's charger is a little bit large. So here's the Sony charger. Now you can see relative to the size of my hand, it's not immense. This is not as bad as the Toshiba Thrive charger, which is really laughable laptop style and size charger, but it's kind of big. And then you get all this cord. Now, having all this cord is actually a nice thing. You don't have to be right next to an outlet if you're charging it and you want to use it. So we won't complain about that, especially compared to something like this Asus ePad Transformer and Samsung Galaxy Tab, both of which use this kind of charger and have a very short cord. In fact, it's almost hard to plug it in on a power strip on the floor and have the thing reach up to your desk to connect to your device. But you can see the difference in charger size right there. This is the charger for the Acer Iconia Tab A500 and A100. They both use the same, so that's a pretty chunky charger there. And lastly, we have the Lenovo IdeaPad K1 charger, also a fairly big charger, but still smaller than this. And the HTC Jetstream charger is about the same size as Lenovo charger also. Now that we've done our little tablet charger smackdown, we'll get back to the tablet itself. You can see this is a gloss display, but this uses Sony's true black display. They say it's the same technology they use on their TVs, and in fact blacks are indeed quite black. Right now we have it cranked just about up to maximum brightness, so the little black bar here is a little bit brighter than the bezel, but not by a whole lot, which is very impressive. It's also a very warm display that makes video look nice. It's not one of those stark, cool colored, everything looks bluish white kind of displays that you see on some tablets. So watching videos on this and looking at photos is really very pleasing. There seems to be a warmth and depth and dimensionality you don't see in some other displays. The drawback is it doesn't get that bright. It's not as bright as the Samsung Galaxy Tab 10.1, which is a super bright display, or the iPad 2, or the HTC Jetstream even. So if you need to use this in very bright places, it will be difficult between the glare of the plastic over here and The lack of brightness for outdoor use, you can see it in a cloudy day, but not forget it on a sunny day. Just not really easy. This is a 9.4-inch display. Unfortunately, it does not have Gorilla Glass, which means you want to be careful and not scratch it up. We haven't found it to be horribly scratch prone yet in our normal use, but we haven't tried to torture it either. And though the tablet is made of plastic, it really is pretty sturdy. In fact, I accidentally walked into a doorway with this guy and nothing happened to it, but it did take a little chip off the wooden doorway. So it's fairly sturdy plastic, and we'll forgive Sony for using plastic because that's what makes it so light. Another thing that makes it light is it has a 5,000 milliamp battery versus 7,000 in the HTC Jetstream and 7,000 in the also light Samsung Galaxy Tab 10-inch tablet. And we were worried about battery run times. We're still doing tests on that now, but we don't expect this to run quite as long as the longest running tablets, like the ASUS ePad Transformer or the HTC Jetstream, or of course the iPad 2, which is one of the longest running ones. Here we have it with next to the iPad 2. Pretty similar form factor really, though the aspect ratio is different on this. Is more of a widescreen than Sony. It's the usual 1280 by 800 Android resolution, which is a widescreen 19 by 10 resolution versus the 4 by 3 on the iPad, running at 1024 by 768 pixels. And in terms of thickness, well, they both start off thin, but obviously the Sony is going to get thicker at the top spine area. While we're looking at this edge, by the way, you really can't tell. The plastic looks uniformly gray here, but there's an LED, a large circular LED right in the corner up there that will glow when you're charging, or if a new mail message comes in for notifications. It's pretty cool. Now compared to the ever-popular ASUS ePad Transformer here, which is clearly much bigger. The ASUS is very wide when held in landscape view. It has large side bezels on it. So Transformer is also heavier at 1.6 pounds, not particularly ergonomic to hold one-handed. Don't get us wrong, we love this tablet, and it's really the most computer-like replacement among Android tablets, but it's more of a computing product versus the Sony's attempt to be a lifestyle product. And here's the side view, thinner corner. And side view here. And last we'll compare it to the Samsung Galaxy Tab 10.1 up here. Again, this guy's a little bit wider. And in terms of thickness, thin corner, still the Galaxy Tab's a little bit thinner. And in weight, they're almost the same. So what kind of specs does this have? This is your standard Android honeycomb tablet. Basically, it's like all the others on the market. It has a 1 gigahertz NVIDIA Tegra 2 CPU, a gig of RAM. It's Wi-Fi only. There will be a 3G model coming according to Sony, but right now it's Wi-Fi only. The 16 gig of storage model is $499 and the 32 gig is $599. Again, pretty much like every other big name brand tablet on the market. It has Wi-Fi 802.11bgn single band, Bluetooth, a GPS, and 2 cameras. It has the front video chat camera and a 5.1 megapixel rear autofocus camera that does not have a flash. What makes this a little bit different from some tablets on the market, now there's a lot of variety because there are quite a few Android tablets, is this has a full-size SD card slot that's underneath this door here. And if you have a micro SD card, you can just use one of the SD card adapters and stick it in there. And we found the performance was really good. You can play media off this, view photos, and with a decent SD card, not even a super fast one, we had no problem playing 720p videos right off the card. The other cool thing is that this has USB host. It has a micro USB port that you just saw right there. And we have the Motorola Zoom USB host cable here, which is this little micro USB to full USB female port. Now it has to be a special on-the-go cable for this to work, and Sony's going to sell one for $14, which is actually about half the price that Motorola sold theirs for. Anyway, you use this and you can use USB peripherals, flash drives, hard drives, mice, and keyboards, and we're going to test that right now with a flash drive. And that's just a real El Cheapo Micro Center giveaway, so this is not even a fast flash drive, but we're going to plug it in and we're going to see how it performs for playing video off of it. Nice thing is, even if you get the 16 gig storage model, you can certainly expand a lot, obviously using the flash drive, a hard drive, or SD card. So it says, aha, you got a USB storage connected, and if you want to look at the files transfer application that's built in, which we'll do, here it is, and you can use it, well, obviously to transfer files. It's not a full-featured file manager, but there are plenty of those for download on the Android market. Plenty of them are free as well. So we can see the files that we have here. If we want to play something, we're going to play the 720p trailer. Just tap it and say, open that file. And it's going to play with Sony's built-in video player. A 720p high-profile MPEG-4 video player. You can use either the gallery application that's built into every Android device, or you can use Sony's video player as well. One of the things that's a little bit different about this tablet from other Android Honeycomb tablets is the fact that it has a 9.4-inch diagonal display versus the usual 10.1. That doesn't bother me. In fact, things look a little bit more sharp and crisp because the pixels are squeezed more densely. You still have the same 1280 by 800 resolution here as you do on the 10.1-inch tablets. It also makes it a little bit more portable, as we noted. It's a little bit more easy to carry than some of the bigger tablets. Sony has customized the user interface quite a bit. The first batch of Honeycomb tablets that we saw that came out starting with the Motorola Zoom in February were just straight vanilla Android Honeycomb. No user interface customization whatsoever. And here you can see we've got these little icons up here that Sony adds, and you've got a shortcut to the web browser, to email, to your IR remote control. We'll take a look at in a minute, and to the Sony Reader application. Those are always available to you at the top here. And the app view is different as well. This is what they call the custom app view, which might look just like the standard application picker to you on Android with a different skin on top of it, with this neat little kind of rubber banding UI. But you can customize it, and that's why they call it custom. You can see you can create groups here, put in separators, which I did, weather and news. I created something called games, ebooks. So it adds a great element of organization to something that can really get a little out of control when you put a lot of apps on here. And there are a good number of apps that are available for Android Honeycomb now. And also, since this runs Android 3.2, it supports Android Phone, that is for Froyo and Gingerbread applications as well, and it does pixel doubling. Now, when you boot it up out of the box as 3.1, it'll immediately tell you about that 3.2 update and download it, and I'm sure at some point it'll just start shipping with Android Honeycomb 3.2. So that's a nice little bonus. Not too many tablets have 3.2 yet. So how do you customize this? Hit the little toolbox over here and you say, I want to add a new separator. And you pick where it is you want to put the separator. You just pick it up and you drag it and say, I want to put it right over there. And then I can give it a name. And while we have the keyboard up, you can see this is Sony's custom keyboard. You have the option about whether to show the number pad on the right side or not. I like that, so I've turned that on. In most instances, that will show up. And it's kind of handy because you don't have to keep switching between the number function and back. Did a nice job there. And you also get a little very faint plink, plink, plink sound when you're tapping on the keyboard. Not super duper loud like the Asus ePad Transformer, but loud enough that you can hear it. Okay, so now I've created my multimedia group and I want to put the video player in. So I just pick it up and I drag it and I put it in that group right there. Oops, try that again. And I've got that application in there, and I want my YouTube player to be in that group as well. And if there are things down here, let's see, I want to put that one up there too. So it's pretty easy to do, and whenever you're done you hit the check mark button. And now I've got my new group. Now if you don't want to see it in that view, you can do a straight alphabetical view like so. Also handy if you have lots of applications. Or you can show newest installed programs first. So that's a nice bit of customization from Sony there. If you want to customize the home screen, it's the typical tap and hold here for Honeycomb, and you can choose between adding app shortcuts, widgets, wallpapers, and other things, and here's the different screens and which one you want to put it on. And we'll take a look at the widget selection here, because one thing Sony hasn't done is add a lot of widgets, which is surprising because that's usually where most manufacturers go to town. One of the big features of Android is the widgets, but they really haven't come up with too much. These are all pretty much standard Google widgets here. Email widgets, Google Search, Latitude, Android Markets shortcut, and widgets for third-party apps that I've already installed here. So nothing really in the way of Sony widgets per se. Closest they come to widgets is something called favorites over here, which are, after a little sound effect, highly graphical shortcuts to some of the things that you've done most recently. You got recently added videos over here. We've got shortcut to the social feed reader, which is our social networking app we'll show you soon. Games we played recently, PlayStation games. Recently added photos, bookmarks for the web browser, and also bookmarks for the Sony Reader application. It's pretty, is it super duper useful? Not so much. In terms of applications that Sony puts on here, here's where they really went to town. We've got a whole bunch of Sony applications on here. We've got their desk clock application, their version of DLNA for streaming sharing over your home network, which it's intuitive enough to use. It's not compatible with every device exactly so far as we've found. This is your desk clock right here. You can set an alarm. You can start a slideshow. You can play music using either the Google Music Player or the Sony Music Player. And you can switch it into nighttime mode. Now if you buy their optional dock stand, which is a fairly large hunk of plastic that goes about the length of this here, sits it up, holds it, it'll put it in photo frame automatically or desk clock mode wise, and you can charge it using that. Unfortunately that dock does not have HDMI out either, so still no HDMI out for this guy. Applications include the remote control. Now this has an IR blaster in it. This beats the Vizio in terms of having more full-featured remotes right here, and also a really nice user interface. So you can see we've set up a TV, a Blu-ray player, a cable box, an AV receiver, and if you want to add a new device, you just tap over there and it walks you through. It's pretty easy to do. So we'll take a look at the settings for our Blu-ray player, and you've got master on-off right here, so that's handy. If you just exit out of whatever control you're in, you can control the power for all these guys. So here's the interface for that. We've got all of these buttons right here, standard stuff that makes sense. And the little dots here indicate if there's more screens. So unlike the Vizio that just picks some of the top functions you might want to do with the device, pretty much this replicates everything you can do, which is handy, especially with our Sony AV receiver, in fact, which we haven't found a remote that actually controls all of the functions on it, and there are a lot of functions. The device list again, and we take a look at the AV receiver. So we have a lot of functions here, including all the input selectors, sound field settings. Very nicely done. Works very well. And controls pretty much anything on the market. So also, in addition to the standard remote, we have gesture controls here for things like volume and channel selection. It really depends on the device and what you're going to see. Now it's very dark and faint here, but you can see that you can swipe across to change the channel. Plays a little tune. That one hasn't been defined. You can see that, and you can see the little IR symbol saying that it's sending that information to the device. Sony also includes personal space, which I haven't tried it yet, but I believe that this is an image sharing and processing service that Sony provides right there. And we have Select App. This is interesting, a strange name for it, but this really goes to Sony's website, and they've put together something that's an awful like the HP Touchpad monthly magazine here for recommended applications, and it looks really slick. So you can see whatever it is they're featuring right now, you can hit more to read that article, and everything is nicely laid out. Almost like an application. It's pretty well done. So this is their way of featuring different stuff, free and paid, that you can download for your tablet. Social Feed Reader is actually one of my favorites. Now most manufacturers' attempts at social networking apps are pretty lame. HTC certainly has done well with their FriendStream for the Jetstream, and this is right up there with it. So right now I've got both Facebook and Twitter set up, so you can see the little icon here telling you which is which. And if they have links or videos or pictures, you can actually just tap on those to see. So here we've got a link, so you just tap on that. And if you want to go to the website, it's as simple as that. So it's really nicely done. Also, while you're in here, if you want to do something with Twitter, you can reply, retweet with comment, just retweet and check out the person's profile. And with Facebook, you can do an instant like, make a comment, or see the person's profile. So it's a pretty strong social networking application. And it has notifications too. You can set it to notify you or not notify you, do tweets, posts, and all that kind of thing. Next up is a biggie. It's the Sony Reader application. I know a lot of you have been waiting for this, a tablet optimized version. This should be, I understand, coming to all Android Honeycomb tablets by the end of the year. So it's going to be a jump start for this guy right here. Now I have 329 books in my library here from the Sony Reader Store, and I have side-loaded some books too. This supports side-loading. You can just tell it to go ahead and scan for books that you put on internal or external storage, and it will find them. So these up top here are actually side-loaded books, and it picks up the book covers just fine. And it takes a bit. If you have 329 books, the first time I ran this, it probably took it about 2 minutes or so to go through all the book covers and to index everything up, but it handles this just fine. And anything you haven't downloaded, you can see this little download symbol there. You can download it as well. And if you want to take a look at the store interface, you just tap on Store. And that actually uses the web browser, but the web browser integrates with this in case you want to make purchases. And featured books is just stuff that they would love for you to buy right now, and it also has whatever you've been reading most recently. So let's take a look at a side-loaded book. And I've set the brightness to be relatively low because I was reading at night last night, so you can see we can just crank up the brightness right here to make it more readable in our bright room now. And you can change between facing page view modes and which way the pages turn as well. Obviously it defaults to single page mode when you're holding in portrait. Now what's really nice about this is because this is designed to feel like a book or a magazine, it's actually really comfortable to hold when you're reading. And though it has the standard 19 by 10 aspect ratio resolution, the overall more square design, it's a little bit more in the shape of the iPad, doesn't make you feel like you're reading a really long, narrow column of text. So that's very nice. And if you want to read facing pages, do that like so. Speed and performance is nice. The formatting is good. And just tap down below if you want to get to any of settings. You can drag to go back to the beginning of the book. So we've got our book cover there. There's a search function, and you can change your font size. You cannot change the font itself, though. And if you want to bookmark something, you just tap up top to dog-ear it. And if you search, you can see you can search the book, and you can also search the Wikipedia in line, which is really handy. And you can highlight text. You can see this grab handles right here, or you can do a search for that word. And you can look it up in the Wikipedia. So there we have our definition from the Wikipedia. So that's the Sony Reader application for anything you purchase from the Sony Reader Store, and also you can sideload EPUB books and PDF books as well. Sony also pre-installs Foursquare and Ustream for uploading streaming videos, and Google Books is on board as well. And other applications like Kindle work just fine too, so you don't have to use the Sony Reader. You can use Barnes & Noble, Nook, Kindle, that kind of thing. You can see we've actually got a little set up for our ebook readers here already. We've got Nook and Kindle set up. I'll take a look at Kindle real quick. And Kindle does not support facing pages. You can see all the features work just fine. You can choose your font size, set the brightness, put it in a more usable portrait mode. Works just fine. Your all-around e-reader. Now this is pretty interesting too. Their music player, you can arrange these album covers however you like. And it's fairly full-featured here. You can set looping and all sorts of stuff like that. You can set stuff as your favorites. And you can change the sort. So if you want to play something, just tap on that album. Here the speakers are pretty decent, pretty loud, and maybe not as super full like the HTC Jetstream, but not bad. And of course we also have Google Music on here, which supports Google Music Beta streaming account, which we've got set up here, so we have a whole lot of titles going. So it's actually streaming this down from my Google account right now. I don't have this locally stored on the device. And for those of you who don't know what the Google Music Beta service is, you can put up to 3,000 music tracks of your own up in the cloud on Google servers, so you can stream it down to any device that supports Google Music Beta. Two things that aren't here yet are Videos Unlimited and Music Unlimited. You will get a 6-month trial of Music Unlimited, which is Sony's streaming music service. And Video Unlimited, here you're going to get one free video. That's a service that rents and sells videos. Sony, being obviously in the motion picture business in a big way, they have certainly a lot of content to offer, and they have an advantage over other manufacturers in that respect. Now, something you can do right now is use Crackle. And this is pretty cool. Now, you could run Crackle, of course, using the Adobe Flash Player in a web browser, but that can be a little bit painful even on a powerful Android tablet. The controls are sometimes a little bit flaky, and resuming stuff like that doesn't work so well. So this does not require that you use the web browser or Flash Player, but you get the same content that you would get if you went to Crackle.com. Again, this is supposed to be coming to other Android tablets sometime by the end of the year, so this tablet gets a head start on the application. So you can see we're starting off in the featured list here. And you can check out all movies. You can also log into your account if you have an account set up. And it keeps track of your queue and all sorts of nice stuff like that. So we can see featured movies, most popular, recently added, you know, the Crackle experience. TV shows. So you get lots of content here. And this is full movies and full TV shows. Having used Crackle.com a lot with Adobe Flash, I'd say that the quality is about the same on this. So you're not losing anything by using the Crackle player, but it's way more responsive and easier to use. So very nice. This also comes with Zinio, which is a great magazine reader. We launched Zinio. We're going to take a look at an issue of Road and Track that we've downloaded. And you can see you're presented with the standard Zinio scrub interface here if you want to go to certain pictures. We'll just go to the cover. Now, you can read it in facing pages mode if you want, but better is to put it in portrait mode for most pages. Text is larger and easier to read. And indeed it is easy to read. You can also do some zooming here if you really need some help with that text. We'll just jump to the Audi section right here, and you can see what an article looks like. So very magazine-like, especially given the design that makes it look like a magazine. Very pleasant experience for reading magazines. And now we'll take a look at the camera. Of course, it has the front camera that's primarily for video chat. Google Talk video chat would be the best use of that. And in the rear, 5.1 megapixel main camera. It takes pretty good pictures, about on par with a better quality 5 megapixel camera phone. There you have it. It's no Jetstream with 8 megapixel and really amazing camera and super bright flash, but it takes pretty good pictures and video. And they have the cute little film strip down here that shows you pictures that you've taken recently. And you can just switch to that, and that actually brings you into gallery, and you can swipe through. And you can see the speed and quality there, and you can zoom in. So the pictures are not bad. You can control settings here that set whether you want a GPS position mark on your pictures, switch between the camera and the video camera. You can shoot 720p video as well. Not bad quality either. And if you want to take a look at a sample video that we shot, this was in high quality mode.
This is video shot with the Sony Tablet S in high mode.
So not bad 720p video for those of you who like to wave a tablet around to take pictures and shoot videos. Since this is NVIDIA Tegra 2, it can play Tegra 2 zone games with no problem. We played Riptide GP, really nice experience, we'll show you that. And it comes with 2 PlayStation games because this is PlayStation certified. That means it has a PlayStation 1 emulator built in. By the end of the year, Sony is supposed to open up a storefront. I guess it's going to offer a selection of PlayStation 1 games, but for right now we get Crash Bandicoot and Pinball Heroes. Crash Bandicoot, not so well optimized for the touch experience. Pinball Heroes, much more so, but we'll take a look at Crash first. So you recognize that music? And you know, the letters are kind of pixelated because we are going back to PlayStation 1 days, and honestly, this thing is more powerful than the PlayStation 1. So if you want to start, you hit the virtual start button. You can see the emulation buttons right here. And we've got our virtual D-pad here, which is a little weird without the physical feedback of, say, a PlayStation phone. So here we are in Pinball Heroes, and you notice here you can choose your background for your pinball table with themes from other games. So obviously this doesn't require a PlayStation controller emulator, and it's very easy to control with touch.
Second place.
And now we'll look at a Tegra 2 Zone game, Riptide GP. Now this plays beautifully and looks really nice. Nice screen. May not be the brightest around, but really great color depth. Nice color saturation and sharpness too. And again, the fact that it's 9.4 inches instead of 10.1 makes those graphics feel just a little bit sharper. Plays very well. This has the standard Android WebKit browser and Adobe Flash 10.3, and Sony says that they have accelerated the web browser a bit. It certainly seems fast and responsive to us. In terms of performance and SunSpider JavaScript test, it did about as fast as you can do, as fast as the iPad 2 and the Motorola Xoom running Android OS 3.2, which is 2077 score. That's very good. So now we'll visit our own website, which indeed does load very quickly over our Wi-Fi 802.11n network. See, the web browsing experience is nice and smooth, even with a lot of Flash ads running there. We have a couple of games running in the background right now too, and several other applications. Pinch zooming works, which is fine. And we'll check out Flash video playback using the full YouTube site. So here we are on the full YouTube desktop site. By the way, this tends to be identified as a desktop browser, so we don't get a whole lot of mobile sites by default, which is definitely nice. You go to New York Times, you see the real New York Times homepage and not the mobile site. And we'll watch the in-time HD movie trailer. Here's the usual 360p in a window.
Let me to introduce my mother-in-law, Clara, my wife, Michelle, and my daughter, Sylvia. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
So that's Adobe Flash playback in the web browser. Works just fine. Of course, you have the YouTube Player application as well, which is really sweet. Standard for Android Honeycomb. And we get our wall of videos here. It's pretty cool with the related videos around it and more information, and we'll pop it out to full screen. So really there's nothing wrong with using the mobile YouTube player on Android Honeycomb tablets. It's good stuff. So that's the Sony Tablet S, available now for $500 with 16 gigs of storage and Wi-Fi, and $600 for 32 gigs with Wi-Fi. It's certainly one of the most interesting tablets ever made in terms of ergonomics and looks, and we really like it. It feels great in the hand. Beautiful design, really easy to hold. Definitely more of a lifestyle kind of device. The whole experience really is, it's geared towards being light, ergonomic, cool looking, easy to use for e-reading and for video playback and all that kind of thing. It's different from the philosophy, say, of the Transformer or the Acer Iconia A500 wannabe computer replacements. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website for the full review of the Sony Tablet S.